Today on Investigate TV Plus, the future of the nation's largest healthcare workforce threatened. I'm Lee Zurich.
And I'm Tisha Powell. Nurses exhausted from the pressures of the pandemic now face another challenge.
What did burnout feel like?
It's just exhausting. It felt like it was taking everything in me to go to work.
We go in depth with a look at the exodus of experienced nurses and explore the efforts to avoid a healthcare crisis.
Plus, shedding a light on the dark web, a mother shares her family's experience in hopes of protecting your family from online predators.
Then a grandfather bridges the generation gap on a Vermont farm.
The older generation has the larger stigma still. So Grandpa's definitely like against the grain in a lot of ways.
The love, learning, and collaboration behind their budding business.
In-depth stories that inform and inspire. You're watching Investigate TV Plus.
According to a 2023 study by the National Council of State Boards of Nursing, nearly 1/5 of the country's 4.5 million registered nurses intend to leave the profession in the next few years. A major culprit? Burnout.
The Mayo Clinic says burnout can impact nurses' personal lives, the patients they care for, and their employers.
Reporter Kristen Crowley gives us an in-depth look at the ongoing nursing shortage and efforts underway to rejuvenate the workforce.
It was a time of fear.
Patients building up in all the corridors.
All of us are going to have to sacrifice.
Uncertainty.
Fearful of the unknown.
We're running out of equipment.
And exhaustion.
I feel so bad for nurses and doctors right now.
Tell me about what it was like being a nurse during the pandemic.
It was hard. I think it was something that nobody was prepared to deal with.
Lauren Syed was a nurse in New York City during the height of COVID.
It felt like I was risking my life to go to work.
She had started a new position as a care manager in a hospital 6 months before the world started shutting down.
And it was a really, really difficult time in my life.
Traumatizing?
Yeah. And I don't think I knew it at the time and really understood how much it affected me.
Now that she's had time to reflect, she says she knows exactly what it was. Burnout.
What did burnout feel like?
It's just exhausting. It felt like it was taking everything in me to go to work.
Syed says the career she once loved turned into something she didn't recognize anymore. And in 2020, she finally had enough.
I just realized how much stress and how much pressure I had been under.
She left for a new state and a new job, a move that isn't all that uncommon. According to data from the National Council of State Boards of Nursing, about 100,000 registered nurses left the workforce during the pandemic due to stress, retirement, and burnout. They say nurses have been exiting the profession faster than they can be replaced, and the trend is projected to continue.
We are on the verge of a healthcare crisis.
Marianne Alexander, the organization's chief officer of nursing regulation, says issues with staffing and workload are contributing to an ongoing nationwide nursing shortage.
That puts extra strain and pressure on the nurses that are still in the profession.
How important would you say nurses are?
Nurses are the lifeline of healthcare. How can you have healthcare without nurses?
She says if not reversed, the repercussions could be devastating.
Hospital beds will have to close because we will not have enough nurses to care for all the patients.
Outside Boston, nurse Tana Bao says in April 2023, she left her primary care position because she felt overworked and unsupported.
Just want to be a good provider. I want to be able to provide good care to people, but it's really hard to do all that when you have all these time constraints and you have all these competing priorities and not enough time to get to things in the day.
She decided to take a step back from bedside nursing, but says she hasn't given up on the profession entirely.
For my mental health and my own sanity, it was definitely an easy decision.
To retain skilled workers like herself, Bao says the emotional and physical well-being of healthcare workers needs to be prioritized.
trying to make sure your nurses feel seen and feel heard and feel cared for.
Now, hundreds of hospitals nationwide are working with Dr. Salome D. Good to do just that.
These types of practices of checking in and turning inward are so important for everybody in order to live a balanced and healthy life.
Her nonprofit, the Sufi Psychology Association, launched the Caring for Our Caregivers initiative in 2020, and word of mouth traveled fast.
Hospitals would call us and say, you know, our nurses love this. Can we get it for our sister hospital?
In addition to offering in-person wellness workshops, the program has donated more than 1,000 tablets loaded with programs promoting relaxation, breathing, and movement.
It's about teaching them how to tap into themselves, how to check in with themselves, and to figure out exactly what they need.
Experts say education is also key to addressing the nursing shortage. The University of South Carolina and Lexington Medical Center are building a new state-of-the-art nursing simulation center and teaching space in West Columbia, which will nearly double the number of nurses the university can graduate.
This partnership with USC College of Nursing creatively helps solve one of the biggest challenges facing healthcare today.
And in New Orleans, LCMC Health and Chamberlain University have partnered to create the Called to Care Scholars Program, which offers eligible participants up to 3 years of paid tuition at the school for a 3-year employment pledge at LCMC.
We can graduate more nurses, we can impact the nursing shortage.
As for Lauren Syed,
and I've been able to really heal and recover as much as I can with just taking some space for myself.
Nursing isn't in her life anymore, but she says she's using her experience to help others, working to start a business mentoring women as they navigate the transitions in their lives.
And I feel like I've found my passion and my excitement again.
Something she says she hopes her former nurse colleagues can find again, for the sake of healthcare's future.
Recent studies in the National Library of Medicine find that nurse burnout is an occupational hazard that not only affects nurses, but patients and organizations too. It's associated with decreased productivity and worsening quality of care.
And it's not just nurses experiencing burnout. According to a recent AFLAC Workforces report, burnout impacted more than half of American workers in 2022. The Mayo Clinic says burnout isn't a medical diagnosis, but the psychologist we spoke to says it can cause physical symptoms.
Maybe we have a little bit of a nervous stomach, or we're distracted, or we get headaches, or we're feeling anxious and stressed. A lot of us feel that. Burnout is a little bit different. Burnout feels more like exhaustion. It can be physical exhaustion, but it's also mental exhaustion.
To combat burnout, the Mayo Clinic suggests you seek support to help you cope. Try a relaxing activity like yoga, meditation, or Tai Chi. Get some exercise, get some sleep, and practice mindfulness.
Still to come, some drivers see electric vehicles as the future of transportation, but aren't ready to take the leap. We explore the pluses and minuses of EVs.
But first,
I've heard about the dark web, in movies, but I didn't really know exactly what it was.
A mother learns the dangers of the dark web after the FBI contacts her about her daughter. We share her story and show you the steps you can take to keep your personal information out of the wrong hands.
I don't want anybody to go through what we're going through.
A mother wants to warn other parents after her daughter's personal information turned up on the dark web and put her safety in jeopardy. The term dark web sounds ominous, and there's a reason for that.
According to Experian, the dark web is part of the internet that's made up of hidden sites you can't find using a conventional web browser. It's only accessible using a special browser known as the Onion Router, or Tor. Tor bounces information through a series of encrypted layers like an onion that offers users more anonymity.
A mother in Georgia says the dark web is where her daughter's information ended up in a disturbing advertisement. Reporter Carly Bennett takes an in-depth look at how one predator used the dark web to hide in plain sight.
I'm always worried about other places. When you go on vacation, when you go here and go there, and it happened here. right around us.
This Jasper County mother says the FBI came knocking on her door June 29, 2023, to deliver news they never expected.
I've heard about the dark web, in movies, and but I didn't really know exactly what it was.
Investigators told her a tipster all the way in England called the anonymous FBI tip line to say this woman's daughter was in danger after uncovering a disturbing dark web advertisement.
There was like 2 pictures, and it was from our family vacation the year before. If they would purchase this item, which was my daughter, that they would tell where we lived, where she frequented, that they knew everything about her.
The man accused of posting that, 41-year-old Kelly Garrett Ivy. The family says they had heard his name before because they attended the same church at one point, but say they otherwise did not converse with him.
We were not his friend. We were his social media friend, along with like the other people at Rock Springs.
Rock Springs Church confirms he was a member there and had not attended for the last year and a half.
He stole our personal pictures that we thought were safe. We had them set to private.
Ivy was arrested by the Jasper County Sheriff's Office and eventually indicted in August of 2023 on the charges of cruelty to children, trafficking of persons for sexual servitude, and criminal attempt to commit a felony, including kidnapping. The arrest report from Jasper County said Ivy, quote, attempted to sell information about a 16-year-old female, home address, as well as places she regularly attends on the dark web in order for her to be abducted, assaulted, or otherwise harmed. The ad, published in June 2023, was up 4 days. And this mother believes in that time, a higher power was protecting her daughter from being identified.
My daughter ended up changing the color of her hair, and she got her hair cut shorter. And it was just like everything that Kelly Ivy knew of her, God took care of.
She says her daughter was homeschooled and had no online presence. They thought they did everything right to keep her safe.
I don't want people to get out of it that church is a bad place, because church isn't a bad place. There's predators everywhere.
And their goal isn't to frighten, just encourage people to be cautious and alert, always.
I do know that everybody's story doesn't end up like this. And if I can protect one person to tell this story, I don't want anybody to go through what we're going through.
There are some steps you can take to protect your children from the dark web. Adjust privacy settings and use parental controls from online games, apps, social media sites, and electronic devices. Tell your child to avoid sharing personal information, photos, and videos online in public forums. Use monitoring software and a business-grade firewall as opposed to off-the-shelf products.
Still to come, cultivating cannabis and understanding. We meet a grandfather who inspired his grandson to join him on his journey to a second career. And coming up, more drivers are considering going electric, but not everyone is willing to plug in. We examine the roadblocks turning off consumers to electric vehicles.
You'll never have to sit in another gas station unless you need air or a soda, and you'll be doing your part to help the environment by reducing emissions. Still, a 2023 survey by Kelley Blue Book found only 27% of consumers are very likely to buy an EV as their next vehicle.
That same survey found 67% of consumers are worried an EV would require at least a moderate lifestyle change. Reporter Susan Campbell gets behind the wheel of an EV to take some of those concerns on a test drive.
In that bottom left-hand corner, there you go. Yep.
Let's take a test drive.
And then if you like that, hit save.
This is my first time behind the wheel of an EV.
Go ahead and just double tap that thing all the way down.
And there's a little bit of a learning curve, especially for Tesla's self-driving features.
And go ahead and hit end trip. Well, you just took it out, you hit the brake. If you can't hit the brake it's like cruise control.
Mark Boyce coached me through the test drive. He has 3 Teslas on Turo, a car share site.
It's been pretty steady.
And he says a lot of his guests are people who've never driven an electric vehicle, but are considering making the switch to an EV.
Probably the biggest surprise is when they actually push on the accelerator and the car takes off like a rocket.
but concerns are common. A new Kelley Blue Book survey shows 67% of consumers are worried an EV would require at least a moderate lifestyle change.
They didn't know how they would charge a vehicle up given their current living situation. So that tells you right there that people aren't certain. They like the idea of it, but they're not certain how it's going to work in the practical everyday life.
Kelley Blue Book's Brian Moody says there are several things to ask if you're considering an EV.
The first is the purchase price. Are you okay with spending $55,000 to $60,000 or much more on this electric car? If you are, great, that's out of the way. For others, you might want to ask questions like, where will I charge it up if I can't charge it up at my home? And how long will it go on a charge? And what does it look like when the weather is very cold or very hot? Because electric cars don't function the same in all types of weather.
If you don't know where it's at, you can tell the car, like, turn on the dome light, and it'll turn them on.
So you can ask for
anything,
basically.
Exactly.
Several people who've rented from Mark have purchased their own EVs after they had the chance to try it out.
I make more money in my day job than I do in Turo, but I have more fun making sure people understand the magic.
A term commonly associated with electric vehicles is range anxiety. J.D. Power says range anxiety is what an EV driver feels when their battery charge is low and the usual source for electricity is unavailable. It can spark fear of getting stranded somewhere. Studies show that driving range and a lack of charging infrastructure are some of the main reasons people do not consider EVs when buying a new vehicle. To overcome range anxiety, experts suggest fully charging the EV at home, plan long-range routes, drive slower, and use less additional features or consider driving a hybrid.
Our investigative team also examined EV charging deserts. Rural and underserved areas across the United States lack charging stations needed to boost batteries. The Biden administration is working to fix the problem, pushing for 500,000 charging stations nationwide by 2030. You can see the entire report on our website, InvestigateTV.com. Just search electric vehicles. Up next, a retired grandfather inspired to get out of his comfort zone.
I think probably my father would roll over in his grave if he knew I was doing it.
We take you to the farm where he's planted the seeds of change.
Are you proud of your grandfather?
Oh, immensely.
A grandson inspired by his grandfather's willingness to expand his horizons and cultivate a budding family business. Jim Coots found a second career out of necessity.
Coots was diagnosed with cancer and needed relief from the side effects of chemotherapy treatments. The relief he sought came in the form of cannabis.
With the help of his grandson, Jim then decided to grow a legal cannabis operation in central Vermont. Reporter Joe Carroll takes us to Jim's farm.
High up a hill in central Vermont.
You want to pick off those ones?
Yep.
Jim Coots and his grandson, Austin Underwood, are right in the middle of a budding business.
I would say they're about 2 weeks into flower.
Yeah. The duo started Montwood Hollow, the growing cannabis, or by its most common name, marijuana, an operation that only a year ago would have been illegal.
I think probably my father would roll over in his grave if he knew I was doing it.
Licensed by the state, they have 125 plants on what is called a Tier 1 operation, the smallest possible.
There's another good one.
They asked me not to disclose where the operation is located.
It's a lot to learn. It's not as easy as just planting a couple flowers and hoping they're going to bloom and you're going to get a good yield.
Jim's well aware that some of his friends will be surprised that he's the director of a cannabis operation.
You're not going to believe it.
In case you're wondering if he uses this for recreational use,
nope.
He's got an answer.
Never even tried it. My grandson's offered it to me in years past, but no, I don't believe in smoking.
Jim does consume cannabis. The reason is sobering. Last year, the 81-year-old was diagnosed with bladder cancer.
Part of growing old is making sure you keep busy.
Jim dries, crushes, and then boils the flower.
So I've been using it as tea. I don't use the THC part for the hallucinogenic. I just use the straight tea.
He says it keeps the nausea down while he's going through chemotherapy.
But the teas have allowed me to eat better, to be more active, to have more energy. which I didn't have.
Jim says the chemo is keeping the cancer at bay.
It's grown quite a bit in just a week.
Are you proud of your grandfather?
Oh, immensely.
It's a very fragile crop.
How do you know so much about this?
Read, learn from him. We've attended seminars.
When you go to a seminar, you kind of stand out?
A little bit. There aren't too many of them even close to my age, I don't think.
Teresa, Jim's wife of 61 years, has reluctantly accepted the new family venture. Austin is all into selling the potent pot for recreational use.
There is still stigma, though, with growing it.
There is. I don't tell a lot of people that, where we're at or what we're doing or how we're doing it.
Jim's far from an aging hippie. With a master's degree in business administration, he once was the regional rep for AARP and even Elk of the Year for a local chapter.
The older generation definitely has the larger stigma still. So Grandpa's definitely like against the grain in a lot of ways.
And this one's in between.
A family finding a new way to work the land in a changing Vermont.
These are actually coming good too.
I do want to make note, Jim was a little, protective about his story, but he was fine with us showing it, and he loved it being shared with people from all across the country in the story.
And I'm so happy because I like sharing the relationship between the two, and also the fact that there's tea. Cannabis tea, which I was not aware of.
Who knew? Lesson learned.
Lot
today.
to learn.
All right, that's it for us here on Investigate TV Plus. I'm Lee Zurich.
And I'm Tisha Powell. Thanks for watching. Next time on Investigate TV Plus, families search for missing loved ones for years, even decades.
What was your reaction when you got the DNA results back?
I knew it was him. I was totally convinced that was my uncle that they found.
The technology solving cold cases and renewing hope for families.